Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Vacuum Exposition. I, of course, am Carl, and we are back with another episode to showcase another fantastic vacuum, of which you have already witnessed in the thumbnail, of course. But we are back in September again. I believe we only have, this is the last Sunday of September. And for those that are tuning in recently and maybe have watched my channel before, we decided against doing September this year. I just kind of ran out of time. A lot of things happened this past month, so I really did need a little bit more time to focus up on that. So I am doing December, so a month in December of vacuum sets. I'll have a little bit more time because, technically my class schedule ends on the 7th of December, so at that point I can finally just kind of coast and relax the rest of the year out and focus on things like my videos for you guys. Now, I know I have been very, very busy lately, being that I just got off of school in the summer and now back in school. It was a very, very long summer and a lot of things that had to be done. So I appreciate all of you guys kind of coming with me and, waiting patiently for these videos to come out. I know that they have been pretty much all the time, been late, at least a day or two. I assure you it is not without trying to get them out on Sunday still. But either way, we are back with another episode today, of course. And this will be coming to you on time because I actually kind of got ahead on a lot of things today, so we are back on Sunday. So, but anyways, let's get on to our video for today and take a look at another really cool one. Well, everybody, we have got ourselves a fun one. Now, I know I've been doing kind of some older machines lately, but this one is one that I've been wanting to bring to you guys for a while. It's floated around in my collection for the past several years. And it's always been one that I've just really liked. I like the look of it. I like the sound of it. I like the feel of it, but it needed a lot when I first got it. Now, what we are looking at today is about a 1933 to 1936 Hoover model 450. Now, for those that know Hoovers, the 450 is a fairly common model, but it is a lot of the times overshadowed by its older brother and step-up vacuum, the Model 800. Now, the Model 800 was essentially the same exact machine, except it was considered the more deluxe version of it. And I'll show an ad for it right here. Now, I myself don't have an 800. I am still looking for one. So for those out there that may have one, definitely let me know if you are getting rid of it. But this is the 450, and I think I actually have two of these at this point, but hard to know, honestly. So many of these things have come in and out of my collection the past few, years, with different collectors getting out of the older machines or others passing away and passing on their collections. But either way, this 450 came to me, and it is a very deluxe machine, even in its state. Now, the 450 would have come with a different bag and a different handle and a few other different things in it, but it does have a lot of the important stuff that makes it a Hoover product anyways. So before we get into what it has or has not, I will kind of go over the story of when I got this machine, just because the story is everything with vacuum cleaners, to me anyways. Now, this machine, like I said, would have come out somewhere in that 30s time frame. This was introduced as Hoover's Sentinel series. So this, the 800, and I believe it was the 925 commercial, were kind of their newest design vacuum cleaner. They had definitely upgraded their looks because the machines that came before them would have been the 700 series. So the Model 700, the 725, and the 750, all of which had, of course, the coffee can motors, much like this one. Now, by that, and with that in mind, that series of machines basically had a chromed can up top here, and if it was the 750 with the optional headlight, I actually have about 2.5 to 3 of those. But either way, that would have just had a long, wide bulbed headlight that would have kind of gone on the front. Now, It was in about the early 30s that Henry Dreyfuss started working with Hoover. Now, for those that know architecture or are a fan of, Art Deco or things like that, you know Henry Dreyfuss very well. And from what I've been told, the 450 was actually the very first vacuum cleaner that Henry Dreyfuss worked on with Hoover. He would continue on, and his most notable machine would have been the 150. And we'll take a look at one of those soon, because I do have one of those in my collection as well. But this was a very significant set of machines. Now, they did end up, selling quite well, which is why, of course, we have this one. Now, because it sold well, it got used a lot, and in that time period, when vacuums get used, things start to fail over time, just normal wear and tear. For this particular machine, there's actually a date on the very bottom that says 1940, and it was definitely done with an ink padded stamp on the bottom of it. Not saying that this was sold in 1940, but at some point this was repaired in 1940. Now, what we can tell, a big thing I really like about any vacuum shop rebuild is the forensics behind it. What is going on here with what we're seeing right now? Now, the handle on this machine is not an original Hoover handle. That came from something else. And the bag would have been off of a completely different machine. Definitely not a 450, because the 450 had a very distinct dark gray bag with kind of like a big, line on the front, said Hoover on it, and orange. So that I know is not an original bag. And of course, it has a different bag separator holder. And a few other little things here, like the cord has been changed, it looks like. Now, 1940, this machine only would have been out less than 10 years. So why would it be going in and getting significant part replacement? Well, these things were pretty heavy machines. My guess is at some point this was being taken up or down stairs, or being moved at some point, and it fell out of a truck or something like that. And I say that because there's actually some chipping right here along the front of the handle bail that looks like it may have fallen forward or handle side down of some sort and broke the original Hoover handle. Now at this time, because this machine was still, kind of new, there weren't really a lot of replacement parts out there unless you got a whole other machine, or, maybe you just didn't have a lot of handles that could be ordered at the time. I'm not 100% sure, but either way, the original handle was replaced by this. Now, from what it looks like, I honestly thought it was a Eureka or maybe a Montgomery Ward's replacement that was on this. It could also be a GE. The reason why I say that is because the bag, as you can see on a Hoover product, is mounted on the back. Now, on a lot of Eureka or GE or other such straight suction type machines, or really just any machine that came out during that time period, they started putting bags on the side of the machine. Now for this one, as you can see, there's a hook on, what would be this side. So that would be how your bag would usually be held on, and thus, you would have your cord that wrapped up around the back of the handle. With a Hoover, of course, you would have a hook that would hold the bag from the back of the handle, and then the cord hooks would actually be over on this side, where you would just wrap it up over there. This being different than that. Now, it can be a little bit of a pain to try to kind of wrap the handle around and then kind of clip the bag through the cord, and there's, but it works. Once you get it going, you're all set. Really, that's just the setup and tear down when you're working with this machine. Now, I also think that the bag had taken some damage when it fell, or whenever that handle was broken and then subsequently replaced. I say that because that is a Hoover bag, but it is a period bag. It went on an actual machine. It wasn't a replacement. It literally says the Hoover cleaner on it. I'm not sure which Hoover cleaner it goes to, but either way, it was replaced at the same time the handle was replaced. Now, I did have to do some work to it, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But overall, once it was complete, this thing actually looks really good. It actually works really, really well. Now, the reason why I absolutely love these types of machines and builds is it tells a story. If you have a completely original machine, that's fantastic. I absolutely love it. It's amazing that it stayed that way since new, especially if it's something as old as this. However, when you have things that are replaced and they're done well, and they're done to a point where you could use this machine at any time to do your house, then I've got no problem with it. In fact, I'm actually, a lot more apt to want to use a machine like that, because then you're like, well, it was made to use. Now, the reason why I absolutely love machines like this is that it tells a story. Historically speaking, this machine probably was a faithful servant to the home, and thus cleaned and did everything it was supposed to, and probably had its full set of attachments, and was used sparingly. And I mean, overall, there's some marking and marring on the front, but it really isn't that bad. And I mean, it even has its original bumper on the front, which is very significant for these old machines, because if you know Hoovers, you usually have to replace them because they're, they petrify and fall off at some point. But this one is still the way it's supposed to be in that regard. But it runs well. It does what it needs to do. And thus, it's a great machine. Now, when I got it, I actually got it from my local friend, Nick Bodemer. He lives up kind of towards the Seattle area, and he met up with me one day, and he called this his project from hell, mostly because it needed a lot of work, and it sounded like, he had kind of gone as far as he could with it, and it just didn't make any more sense to continue with it, and thus, it still needed a lot more to be done with it. Now, I took it and I had some ideas, but I was very excited about it because I didn't have any of the Henry Dreyfuss designed Hoovers at that time. So I, of course, took it with open arms, ready to see what I could do to make this thing into a great example, or at least a working example of one. And kind of getting down to the meat and potatoes of it, I was like, this thing needs, it needs a lot. As it were, and as I got it, the bag on it, the whole top of the bag had been ripped clear off, as if, like, maybe at some point there was a different clasp on the top, and those clasps, if they were anywhere around moisture, they tended to rust and essentially fuse the bag to the clasp, and making it extremely hard to get the clasp off, because for those that don't know the way you dump these bags, because these don't have like an inner paper bag, they're what they call a dump bag. So the only way to get the contents out is by removing the clasp at the top, which usually slid sideways, and then taking the bag and dumping it into a garbage can or outside or wherever you dump your vacuumed up trash. And if you didn't use the machine for a very long time, that would fuse due to moisture, and, well, you weren't dumping this machine anytime soon. So at some point, somebody had taken the clasp and basically just ripped it right off the top of the bag, and it was in pretty sad shape when I saw it. Now, what I decided to do is I needed a clasp for it for the top, so I went through my parts bin and finally found one in a drawer. And I had to get a little bit creative with fixing the bag up so that it would be able to be held on by the clasp. Because the way that those clasps work essentially is that there's kind of a thick lip that's around the top of the bag. And when those come together, it makes it twice as thick, and that's what the clasp holds onto. Now this, of course, didn't have that because that had all been ripped off at some point. So what I did was I had to think outside of the box. And that box happened to be a box of popsicles, because I went and got a couple of popsicles, ate through them. We don't waste popsicles, people. But I grabbed those 2 popsicles, and then I got creative with my glue gun. Now, I love a hot glue gun. They do tremendous work. For this, it worked perfectly, because what I was able to do is put 2 popsicles, essentially making that lip that would come together, and then I folded over the pieces of fabric of the bag that were left. So therefore, the ripped piece actually got fused back with the rest of the fabric on the bag using hot glue, and thus we created a new, bag top opening. So once I put it all together and slid it into the clasp, you can't tell that there are popsicle sticks there, and making a, seamless fix at this point. So very, very fun. I absolutely love doing that project. And once I got it all put together and, cleaned it up, polished it, this thing absolutely looked gorgeous. And it has been a few years for sure. So obviously some dust has settled on it, but this is an absolutely amazing, fun project that I had. That kind of hit me at a really good time, because it was at a time where, in terms of my collecting hobbies, well, I wasn't doing too well. So I kind of stopped vacuums altogether. And it wasn't until my other friend Jared had given me a dial-o-matic that, well, that was what kind of got me back into it after my late friend Jay passed away unexpectedly. So Jay passed away and I got this dial-o-matic, and it kind of got my gears turning a little bit. And then I saw the elusive project from hell, and I saw it as a really fun challenge. But it's a really, really cool machine. I can't wait to get it fired up again because it is so cool. These coffee can style Hoovers just have a totally different build. Much kind of like a convertible. They have a vertical shaft rather than a horizontal shaft, which is what most vacuum cleaners use. And not very many use a vertical shaft anymore, other than like sanitaires and such. But it's a really cool, and I even took off the bottom plate to kind of show you guys the bottom of this machine, because I think everybody should see the bottom of a coffee can Hoover at some point. Now, here we go. As we can see, we have the bottom plate. There is a plate that goes on here that kind of covers this whole area and creates that suction type chamber. But this is the Hoover beater bar brush roll. The whole reason why Hoover took that slogan, "It beats as it sweeps as it cleans," because these metal rods right here would beat the dickens out of the carpet. And then you had these brush strips right here that would, get it up out of the carpet as well. But as you can see, here's our vertical shaft motor, and then a tubular ring-shaped type belt. Of course, you also had a height adjustment on this. There was a screw that would move these wheels up and down so that you could get that front end anchored forward a little bit more. But very, very interesting design. I mean, the beauty of these machines is, many, many years later, these would have brush rolls in it that would just kind of be held in by the tension of the belt. But this actually has these switches right here and over here that you would lift up that actually anchor the brush roll in, so that even if I don't have the bottom plate on this machine, it will still keep that brush roll sitting in there, and you don't have to worry about, if you pick it up, it falls out or anything like that. So very good design. I know very, very minor, but I absolutely love looking at the bottom of these things and, just seeing what they have. But here you can kind of see that stamp. Looks like May of 1940 right there. It looks like March of 1946 was also the servicing after that. So about 6 years in between servicing for this machine, it looks like. But at the 1940 time frame, which is where I could find, where these parts would have come from, that would have been where this went through the big rebuild. Anyways, well, folks, I think that's all I have for information on the old 450, but let's get on to our run demo and see how this thing does on the floor. Okay, folks, so we got the old 450 all plugged in and ready to go. Threw that bottom plate back on there, so it is set and ready for full vacuuming power. Like I said, with those cord hooks on the backside, it does tend to make unraveling and rewinding the cord a little bit challenging at times, but honestly, not a big deal. I just end up taking the bag off and it makes it way easier, and then putting the bag back on. But we are all set, so let's see how this thing does. Well, everybody, the old 450 did fantastic on the floors, and honestly, this is such a fun machine to use. And what a perfect one, and one that was, rebuilt again, so you're not, fearing of ruining the originality of another one, because I think I have another one of these somewhere that is actually all original. I had to kind of go back and go through my stockpile of them, but either way, they're just so easy to use. I absolutely love this one just because it just kind of glides across the floor. I'm not putting a whole bunch of effort. There are others in my collection that, I've gone about and done the whole floors, and I'm like really working them. At least these coffee can based machines. And what a beautiful machine going across the floor anyways, with that streamlined Art Deco style motor top. This machine just looks amazing. And even with not being 100% original, if you didn't know it, it would be 100% original. So, but I hope you guys enjoyed our little run demo for today. Well, everybody, we have come to the end of another one here, and man, this was a fun one to do. I have always absolutely loved the coffee can motor Hoovers. They were one of those machines that I had always wanted when I first started collecting, mostly because, well, they were the earliest form of vacuum cleaner that anybody can really recant. There are, of course, older ones and whatnot, but as a young, burgeoning collector in this world, this style machine was something that I absolutely loved. Something that I could look at and, bring friends into my collection room and, for them, even though they didn't know anything about it, to tell them, like, this is an early vacuum cleaner, and they'd be blown away. Absolutely fantastic machines. Machines that, you just don't really see anymore. A lot of these were cannibalized and, scrapped during the war effort, too. So a lot of these gone, never going to be found again. So, which is why I prided myself in finding so many of these machines and, in all original shape or something like this. Because, well, that's that preservation of history that, for a lot of things and reasons we can't really get back because it's gone. It's lost in the ether of our past. So, but this machine, either way, really, really fun one. Absolutely hugely thankful to my other friend, Nick, for bestowing this one upon me. I know that it was his project from hell, but, after I put some thought and time into it, it really did turn into, well, quite the diamond in the collection. So, and at some point, what I should do is maybe we'll do this. Maybe we'll look at all of my coffee can Hoovers in December. And just get all these big guys out and show you guys them, because my lord, I have a lot of them, probably at least 30 or 40 coffee can style Hoover machines, just because they're amazing machines. I've had a lot of them, and in whatever running or non-running shape, they have always been cool and a favorite of mine. So, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed our little video for today. It was definitely a fun one for me, of course. And I'm getting in the mood of the spooky season, so I kind of wanted to do something that was a little, black and orange a little bit. So, but anyways, you guys have a fantastic next week as well as a great next weekend. I think next weekend is my last weekend in town before I fly out to Hawaii for my dad's 70th birthday. But either way, you guys will still have videos coming out like normal. But anywho, you guys have a great rest of your evening, of course, a great rest of your weekend, and we will catch you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, y'all.